You can see that Adobe Audition is a single window divided into multiple panels. Using the default workspace, you will see that there is a Files panel on the top left. This is the panel in which all the files imported into your project are organized. Any audio media that you bring into Audition are kept here, as well as any video, multi-track projects, or recordings that you create. As you can see, the multi-track recording that we created in the last tutorial is located here in our Files window. Below the Files panel is the Media Browser. This window allows you to browse for files anywhere in your computer and bring them into your project. For those of you familiar with Premiere Pro, this media browser works in the same way that the media browser in Premiere works. You can browse to any media file on your computer or your external hard drive. When you find the file that you want, you can double-click on that element, and it is automatically placed in the Files panel and is opened in the waveform editor. You can see that the file is located here in our Files window, and this has opened up the waveform panel rather than the multi-track panel. If I double-click on our multi-track project, it'll take me back to the multi-track panel. If I double-click on the waveform, it'll take me to the waveform editor, and I can change the size of these two images by dragging the bar in the middle. The effects rack is located next to the media browser, and this is the location where you can search for and apply effects to entire tracks in your multi-track projects. Here you have options to apply effects to individual audio clips or to entire tracks. We'll get to more on audio effects later. Near the bottom of the screen is the Levels monitor. You use this to monitor the volume level of audio in your project. The Selection View panel provides you with information about audio that is selected in your project, such as the duration of a clip, the sample rate, etc. In a waveform project, like this one, playback controls are at the bottom of the screen. Play, pause, stop, as well as fast forward and rewind, record, and loop playback are all located here. There are also several zoom options for zooming into and out of your track. The one on the left with the plus symbol and the vertical arrows zooms into the amplitude of your track. Next to that is the zoom out of the amplitude, and then there's a zoom in time and a zoom out of time. There are also several tools at the top of the program. There are two view toggle modes. You can toggle on and off the spectral frequency, which we'll talk about later. And there are some common editing tools. Many of these are grayed out now because they are used only in the spectral frequency monitor or in the multi-track tool. There's the time selection tool, which you use in the waveform monitor to select pieces of your waveform. If we navigate to the multi-track project, you can use the Move tool to select and move audio clips around in the multi-track interface, and the Razor tool to make edit points in audio tracks once they're placed. There's a Slip tool for sliding the media within an audio clip. The Marquee selection and Healing brush tools we'll talk about later when cleaning up audio. In the waveform menu, you'll see the waveform display. This is where you'll spend time editing individual audio files. The waveform is measured in amplitude or loudness or softness. And you can see that this is measured to the right in decibels, or dB. The scale across the top of the waveform editor depicts time. The playhead here is the yellow bulb with the red line, and you can move this back and forth in time to scrub in and out of your track by clicking and dragging on the playhead. In the bottom left-hand side, you'll see a timecode reader, and this indicates the location of your playhead within your waveform. You can also move your playhead by clicking and dragging to the left or right. For any item that is yellowed out with a dotted line underneath is a manipulatable item, so you can click and drag on anything with a yellow text in it to manipulate that value. You can also click within those yellowed out text and manually type in a number. At the top of the editor is the Navigator window. This shows you the entire waveform file. If you're zoomed in within the waveform, you'll notice that this yellow box appears, and this indicates what portion of the entire file you were looking at in the editor below. You can drag this around to navigate within the audio file. You can also use this to zoom in on portions or zoom out by clicking and dragging on the handles to the left and right. Now let's explore the multi-track editor. In the multi-track editor is built up of individual tracks as seen here. And they're labeled here track 1, track 2, track 3, track 4, and so on. You can drag individual audio files into these tracks by clicking and dragging on the audio file icon and bringing it into your media editor. Sometimes a warning will come up regarding the sample rate of the file. Disregard this. As you can see, now that I've dragged in my media file into my multi-track editor, it's displayed as a waveform. Using the Move tool, I can slip this in time and move it from track to track. Each track has its own set of controls, which we will get to later. At the top of the editor is the timeline, seen here, and much like the waveform editor, this is showing you the entirety of the project. If I zoom in on my project, the box forms, and I can use the handles on either side to zoom in and out of my project